Welcome to episode 1 of the Master Maker Podcast, brought to you by HSCG. I recently had the honor of sitting down with Hana Tisserand, and her passion and enthusiasm for essential oils is unparalleled. Join me in my discussion with Hana and unlocking the power of essential oils. Welcome to the HSCG Master Maker Podcast. I am here with Hana Tisserand today.
Thank you. Hi, Leigh. So happy to talk to you.
I'm so excited to have you on because essential oils is one of the, the most important topics, using them properly in personal care, using them safely and sourcing them safely. So I'm so excited to talk to you today.
And I'm excited to talk to you because that's, I can talk about essential oils all day, every day, and I do.
Excellent. So for listeners that may not know you, how did you get involved with essential oils and the Tisserand Institute?
Okay. My first exposure to essential oils was when I was maybe 12, 11. And my grandmother got the tea tree oil, and it just came to the Czech Republic, and she heard about it. It's like, this is amazing, and it's for all your, when you have a mouth ulcer, which is something that I suffer from, you can just put it there. And so that was my first exposure to essential oils, was undiluted tea tree oil on my gums, which is jumping deep dive.
I would say.
Yeah, but that's I only realized that kind of looking back, and okay, this was actually the first essential oil. Then we had like a little candle burner with a little water receptacle on top that you put essential oils, which you call call them candle burners, aroma lamps in the house, sort of on and off. But my more serious interest into essential oils came in my early 20s when I was working with a sort of new age / health store, and the owner there was a distributor for one of the MLM companies, and she brought essential oils to us, and I was like, yes, this is wonderful. They smell amazing. And the important thing to know contextually is the Czech Republic is in Central Europe, and Central Europe has a really deep tradition in plant medicine, and it's very intertwined with the established medicine as well. So there's like the oldest apothecaries, and you get herbal teas that you can buy in the pharmacy because they're standardized and all of that. So there's always this kind of open communication between plant and traditional medicine, like the establishment medicine.
Right.
So you're kind of open to that. So I got into that, and then because my main job at that point was translation and interpreting, I got asked to be an interpreter for a 2-day seminar of Robert Tisserand in Prague. Wow. And that was my first exposure to looking at essential oils scientifically, looking at them from the point of view of evidence and thinking, oh, so this is not just like something that you do on the side. There's something here. There's actual, it can be treated as a pharmaceutical in terms of the scrutiny, in terms of what we know about them. This is not just meditating on a scent to make you feel better, which has really impact. I'm not, trying to diminish that. And that's basically how I got involved with both Robert and then later the Tisserand Institute, which he was relaunching in 2014 when we met.
Right.
Because there was a Tisserand Institute in the late 1990s, early 2000s, that was a physical school in London that was teaching aromatherapy, massage therapy, all of that. And in 2014, Robert wanted to revive it online because sort of online learning was starting to become more of a thing at that point, right, with on-demand webinars. And so I was right there, and we kind of built it from there for now more than a decade.
Nice. It's such an interesting topic too, is looking at traditional medicine and herbal remedies. 1,000 years people were using that before modern medicine became popular. So that's very interesting.
And
Go ahead.
And sometimes some people sometimes put them at odds with each other. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's the traditional wisdom and that's the science. Actually, if you look at traditional medicine, it is very scientifically built
Mm-hmm.
because you use a plant, you see what happens, you document it, and
Right.
then you pass it on. That's textbook scientific method.
Absolutely.
It's just not done in a lab, but it's essentially what we do with any
Absolutely.
evidence.
And I think there is a turn too. People are looking at more plant-based remedies as well
Mhm.
at home and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I used lavender on burns and things like that when I was making soap, so I had it available.
Yeah.
So I used to use it on burns. A kid got a burn and they would like, oh, that smells good.
And it works.
Right, right, right. So the Institute is known for its evidence-based approach to essential oil education. Can you
Mhm.
explain what that means and why it's so important in a field that is often full of marketing claims?
What it means is that we bring receipts for every claim that we make.
Hmm.
For when we tell you that lavender is good for anxiety, we will give you, okay, this is what we're basing that claim on.
Hmm.
This also means that sometimes we say we don't know.
Okay.
We say we know this works, but we don't know how. Or we say we don't know if this will work because we do not have anything that we can base that on.
Right.
So we're really honest in the level of knowledge that we have, understanding that we have. This doesn't mean that we say this is not going to work. We will also tell you when we know that something isn't going to work.
Right.
If someone tells you that lemon essential oil is going to add vitamin C to your diet, we're going to say, no, it won't.
Right.
And this is why, because essential oils do not contain vitamins, da 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 da. So evidence-based means that whenever we make any sort of statement,
Mhm.
there is a reasoning behind that, which is not, we want you to buy more oils.
Right.
The reasoning behind us making a statement is we want to make you informed. We want to tell you why we're saying these things so that when you want to make a decision, you also can make it based on the knowledge that you have,
Right. Right.
that you understand why we're saying it. I think this comes from partly my background in linguistics and in translation, where I always learned to look at the why. Why is somebody saying something, but why is somebody saying it the way they are saying it
Right.
as well,
Right.
you know, because words matter and how we say things matters. And partly from, okay, we really want to not necessarily counter, but be a guiding line in the sea of marketing claims.
Right.
Because people get disappointed, people get disillusioned, people get hurt sometimes.
Right.
And we wanted to tell them, hey, this is the real story. No, essential oils are not going to cure cancer.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Right.
But they can help the person who's going through cancer treatment to have an easier time. Evidence for that. And in terms of like purely marketing, I always say that our product is the information.
Right.
So if we're going to make marketing claims, we're going to make them about the information. That's what we're trying to get out there.
Right.
And you can clearly point to some claims of, okay, well, the person is obviously going to tell you this oil is the best thing in the world because they want you to buy that oil.
Right.
And they want you to buy as much of that oil as possible. So that's the transparency part on our end is our product is our education. So,
And I imagine too, it's just the same as modern medicine. Like
mhm.
a certain remedy isn't going to, even if it works for most people, isn't going to work for all people.
Yeah,
So do you have to put that caveat in there? This is what it's supposed to do, and it has
yeah,
done for people, but might
yeah,
not work for you. Like
yeah.
just same with any kind of medication you're going to take or any kind of remedy.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where the research evidence is useful because sometimes we will have anecdotal evidence, sometimes we will have case studies, but that's still a small amount of people. So we can say, again, we bring the receipt. We say, okay, we're saying this because there was a study that was done on 12 people.
Right.
That's a very little sample. It worked for most of the people of the 12, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for the same percentage of the general population, which is a part of that understanding as well.
Right.
But if we have now, I think it's definitely in the dozens research papers about lavender for anxiety, and it shows effect in most of them, then we're going to say, okay, it's very likely that lavender is going to work for most people.
Yeah. Oh, it works for me.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite scents, actually. It's one of my favorites. I always put it in my bath, I
It's
just
a
want that.
classic. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So how are essential oils actually made and what determines their quality?
Well, essential oils, if we go by the standard definition, essential oils are either hydro or steam distilled
Hmm.
from plant material. The only exception to that are citrus essential oils, which are expressed from the peel. So when you're peeling an orange and you get your fingers wet and smelling like orange, that's the essential oil. So that's the one exception. Otherwise, essential oils are distilled. This means that we take a lot of plant material, we put it in a still. If anyone's ever been in like a whiskey distillery, it's the same principle. You put the material in a big vat with water, and the plant material is directly in the water, or it's above the water. You heat the water, and the steam is what carries the scent, the volatile molecules from the plant over and through the condenser, which then collects the steam and the volatiles. And the condensed water is called a hydrosol or a hydrolat or floral water, rose water, orange neroli water. All of those are also made through distillation. And then the essential oil, because it's lighter and because it's not water soluble, will float on top, and you collect that.
Oh, okay.
So that's how essential oils are made. It's a very resource heavy process. The yields, or how much essential oil you get, are in the single digits of percent.
Mhm.
So to make 1 milliliter of lavender, you will need,
A
a
lot of plant
hundred
material.
times a lot of plant material. If anyone's ever tried distilling at home, and you think you collected a lot of plants, and then you'll have like a tiny layer of essential oil, until like, what, that fit? It's a very resource heavy process. And it also means that you concentrate the volatiles. The volatiles are what gives essential oils the scent. That's volatile organic molecules. And so you just take that portion. The quality is determined by pretty much the whole process, from cultivation, so how the plant is grown, how it's tended. The climate determines how much of the volatiles will be produced. There's a lot of research done on rosemary in different climates and under different stress. So if it's drier, or if there's more sunshine, less sunshine, that will determine how scented that plant will be, how much volatiles will there be. When it's harvested will determine as well. So for rose, that needs to be harvested early in the morning, the flowers,
Okay.
because if they open, they will even tell you, if you go to a botanical garden, if you want to smell the roses, come in the morning, because when they open, then they already have released most of the fragrance into the air. So time of day of the harvest, then the next stage of processing, whether it's dried, how it's dried, then the distillation itself, the right time, you have to stop at a certain point or not stop too early. And, anything from there as well, how they're stored, how they get to you. So it's a whole labor intensive as well as resource intensive process.
Which tells you why essential oils are so expensive.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And also tells you, okay, I should maybe not use them too much, because they're
Right.
really, they're precious materials. So yeah, so there's a lot that goes into that, and a lot that determines the quality.
So something like a pesticide on a plant,
Mhm.
would that make it through to the final essential oil?
Not in any amount that would be very significant, because it has to go through the distillation process. There might be some trace amounts, but like really, we're talking parts per million, parts per billion, very, very tiny amounts. It might be higher in citruses,
Mhm.
for the reason that, those
On the
essential
skin.
oils
Yep.
are not distilled, so there's not that filtering process. It is there, but it's not in any amount that would be significant if you compare it to our general exposure. So
Okay.
as well as pesticides, people sometimes mention heavy metals,
Hmm.
and that is also can be an issue with essential oils. But if you put it in perspective, like if you live anywhere where cars drive by you, you're gonna get more exposure to heavy metal in 5 minutes walking down the streets than you would if you drank a whole bottle of essential oil in terms of heavy metals. So I think that's important when we're talking about contamination is like, okay, there might be some, but how much do we need to freak out about that, basically?
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure that people listening who, especially makers who use essential oils, that's probably something they wonder, about the
Yeah,
pesticides and
yeah,
about the heavy
yeah,
metals.
yeah.
So, we see all kinds of labels out there, like natural, pure, plant-based, therapeutic grade. What should people be looking for when they purchase their essential oils?
So most of the labels are meaningless.
Yep. Yeah, because there's no
For
there's no
yeah, there's
federal
no yeah,
term.
there
Natural is just it's
yeah,
not defined.
there are very few standards of quality that would be applicable. There's the ISO standard, the International Standards Organization standard, for some essential oils. There is pharmacological standards for some essential oils for the purposes of research.
Mhm.
So if there's research done on coming back to lavender, that it should have this kind of composition. But in terms of quality, other than these, the ISO standard and the some of the pharmacopoeia standards, there isn't much to go by. Organically grown, we're going back to pesticides, that goes to how the crops were cultivated. And that's a good thing to have if it's organic and it's one of the actual organic standardizations. Then that's meaningful in terms of how the plant came to be and how it was processed. It's not just about the essential oil itself. Maybe you care about agriculture and that part of things. So yeah, if it sounds like a marketing claim, it probably is. One of the biggest companies globally devised their own certified therapeutic grade. I'm not sure what it is, but they trademarked it.
Right.
And if it's your own standard and if you trademarked it and nobody else can attain that standard,
Right.
that kind of standard that's not a third party independent verification, really. And if like a good rule of thumb for quality is transparency from the company.
Okay.
So if they provide you with an analysis, and I'm not talking just certificate of analysis, I'm talking full GCMS analysis, even if you as the end consumer don't know how to read it.
Mhm.
But the fact that the company is capable of providing you with a detailed analysis of what is in their essential oil,
Mhm.
that's a good sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to source and looking out there, and there's so many, different vendors selling essential
Yeah.
oils, that's what you want to look for. Like
Yeah.
how do they back it up?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
documentation they can send to you. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
good. Good.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you touched on in the beginning when we first started speaking to the MLMs, and I know the MLMs are, kind of demonized in the industry. Most people know to stay away from them when they're, sourcing their oils. Would you say that that's a safe practice, or can you sometimes get something from them that's decent?
So we're talking about mostly people who want to make their own products.
Yes.
Uh, the reason I would advise them not to buy with MLM is that they're incredibly overpriced for
Okay.
what you're getting.
Right.
Because it's the structure that dictates that the price of the product needs to pay everyone up and down the pyramid.
Right. Right.
And so the essential oils themselves are not necessarily bad quality, they're decent quality. They're selling a lot of products, so you're not getting niche artisan small local distiller. You're getting a standardized product. Very often they will blend some essentials together, kind of like if you have a big winery and they have a standard wine, like one buckchuck in Trader Joe's is a blend of wine because it has to taste the same all the time. It's the same with these essential oils. They have to smell the same all the time.
Right.
So it's not going to be high-end um, product,
Good
but
quality. Right.
you're paying an extra premium price
Just because of the business structure.
just because of the business structure. So
Okay.
if you're trying to make products and if you're trying to scale your business to make products, I would stay away from MLMs just for that because it's not budgetary savvy.
Absolutely.
The reason why they're usually vilified in the industry is because they are trying to sell as much and get
Yes.
you to use as much essential oil as possible. So they will stretch the claims that they can make about health, and but they're also doing it in a slightly shady way, because if you follow FDA guidelines, you cannot make unproven claims about health. So they do it through testimonials, and they do it through their independent consultants who are not technically a part of the company.
Right.
So there's the sort of the ethical part of that business is when they're just going to push you to use essential oils, sometimes in an unsafe way, very often in an unverified, not evidence-based way, making big promises like,
Right.
spend hundreds of dollars on essential oils and we're going to make you rich, we're going to make you calm, we're going to make you stress-free, and we're going to
Right.
cure everyone in your family of every ailment possible. And you can clean your house with essential oils. Isn't that wonderful? So that's the reason for the vilification, is just like the push for using these extremely resource heavy, labor heavy resources,
Right.
these precious essential oils.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I imagine that some people might buy into, oh, I can use this essential oil to cure whatever ailment I have, and
yeah,
ignore going to a doctor or ignore
yeah.
getting help for whatever it is that they have.
Yeah, and they're not going to educate you on how to recognize when you're having an adverse event,
Right.
or what to do. But I think that people also gravitate to them because of the community part of things.
Right.
You get together, everybody's excited about
Yep.
essential oils, which is a great thing. I want people to be excited.
Right. Yeah, they're very good at their marketing for sure. So, so adulteration and false labeling can be a big issue. What are some warning
Mhm.
signs that an oil might be poor quality or not what it claims to be?
I'm gonna start with like the very low end of like this is not an essential oil at all, and some of the red flags that you see online,
Mhm.
very often on Amazon or some of the big retailers. If you have what is claimed to be an essential oil and you have several of them and they're all for the same price, and it's a large quantity, so you get 10, 15 milliliters of lavender, rose, frankincense,
Mhm.
peppermint, and they all cost $10.
Right.
Not essential oils. So look for that. Look for, okay, this sounds to be too good to be true. It probably is. Essential oils should be expensive, and essential oils should cost different amounts for different essential oils, just because it's less difficult to produce peppermint essential oil than it is to produce rose essential oil.
Right. Rose and chamomile, I hear, are
Yeah,
very,
chamomile,
very,
Melissa, which is always that's a sort of a mind bending, because both Melissa, lemon balm, and peppermint grow like crazy if you grow them, but it's the yield that when you try
yield
to
of,
make
right.
essential oil,
Right.
it's vastly different. In terms of adulteration, again, the transparency on the part of the company, if they're willing to show you the receipt of we've done our analysis and we know that what we're getting from our suppliers is not adulterated, and we're checking ourselves as well, then that's a good thing. It's difficult for an end consumer to find the sort of fine adulteration of like, well, maybe they added a little bit of this single constituent limonene into their lemon essential oil or into their orange essential oil. It's very difficult to find unless you are really educated in the chemistry of essentials and in reading these analyses.
Mhm.
But there are some of the red flags that are immediately obvious, which is it's too good to be true in terms of price. If it's a company that claims that they're selling essentials and they're selling essentials of things that do not produce essential oils,
Right.
cherry blossom,
Right.
not essential oil. Lilac, unfortunately, also not an essential oil.
Mhm.
So, you need to do a little bit of detective work in trying to figure out what is an essential and what isn't. I think people in the soap making and cosmetic making world who are used to working with fragrance oils are actually better equipped at spotting this, because you're used to, okay, this sounds like a fragrance oil. And if you're working with a supplier who is transparent about, okay, these are our fragrance oils and these are our essential oils, then you will also know that, okay, chocolate croissant is not going to be an essential oil.
Yeah, you can't take a bunch of chocolate croissants and squeeze them and get anything out.
No, if you put them in a still to try and distill them, there, you wouldn't get much. What you should be looking for is botanical names. If it comes from a plant, it should have a botanical name listed on it, on the label, on the website, wherever you're looking. It should have the botanical name listed, and the botanical name should be the correct one. And it should also tell you how it was obtained. I think we might be able to put a link in show notes, maybe, to an article I did on 7 green and red flags for looking for an essential oil supplier.
Absolutely.
Which is just
I will put that in show notes.
Running this down. Yeah. Because it's a little bit like with every sourcing of every ingredient, you gotta know a little bit.
Right. So you have to do your homework and kind of find a supplier that is a good supplier. Yeah. So what about sustainability? Some oils are in higher demand, but come from rare or over-harvested plants. So how can consumers make responsible choices when they're sourcing their oils?
Check for, again, what plant it comes from, so you can check for the status of the plant. If you go to any of the endangered species lists, they're available, so you can check, is this plant in trouble or is it not? There's a nonprofit, the US-based, but they have ambassadors all over the world, which is called HSCG Institute, AIRMID, HSCG Institute. That focuses on sustainability of essential oils in particular. So if you want to do your homework in that area, you can. The rule of thumb is if it grows in your backyard as a plant, it's probably not endangered. So your lavenders, peppermint, rosemary, eucalyptus, if it is a shrub, a herb that grows easily, sustainability is probably not an issue, unless you're talking about the sustainability of the supply chain. So, if you're getting your tea tree oil shipped from China, it's probably less sustainable than if you find it locally. Well, tea tree is not a great example because I don't think it grows in many places, but, lavender, peppermint, if you have peppermint that is distilled in Washington State, it's more sustainable to get it in the US than if you get it shipped from France. But herbs generally are more sustainable. It's the trees and the things that grow in just one particular area that are more vulnerable. Spikenard made the news recently about being very, very endangered. It only grows in the Himalayas. Vanilla, which is not an essential oil, but that's a good example that people will be familiar with. It's a very rare crop. So whenever we're dealing with something that grows in a small area, or if it's a tree that needs to mature and needs to be taken down as a full tree for it to be turned into essential oil, famously sandalwood in India, then you've got trouble, because if there's a demand and you overharvest, it takes a while for the population to
in this industry, our makers are very environmentally conscious, and so that's very interesting thinking about that. Also thinking about where you source it from as well. I think that's an interesting point. What are your top principles for using essential oils safely, especially in personal care products?
That's a relatively simple thing. Use as little as you can, as much as you need, but as little as you can. So whatever it is you're trying to do, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, just start at the low end of what you need. If you need to, and we're talking more therapeutically, if you need to increase to get the benefit, then just go slowly, but start as low as possible. I think that's a good rule of thumb generally.
Good, yes. And what is the right way to approach blending and choosing oils to feature in making personal care products?
Oh, that's like asking me what is the right way to painting a picture, or I mean, fragrance is art, literally. Making fragrance and blending is art. And I guess it depends again why you're making it. Why are you adding essential oils to your products? That's always going to be the number one issue. If it's solely to add a benefit, a health benefit, then you focus on that. And you may even go with a single essential oil. And you don't need to blend, because essential oils are already blends of many single chemicals. So if therapy is more your focus, then don't overcomplicate things. But then if your focus is adding a nice fragrance to your product,
Mhm.
then you need to work it to create the fragrance that you're happy with. And then we can talk about the whole perfumery brief and top note and middle note and base note. And, if we're talking
Right.
candles, then, throw everything.
Mhm.
So the right way to approach blending is the way that works for you and the way that works for what you're trying to achieve with either the fragrance or the function, or meeting somewhere in the middle for a functional fragrance so you get the benefits and it smells nice, and also taking into account sustainability, taking into account budget, taking into account reliability of your supplier chain, because you can find the most wonderful essential oils from a small distiller in your backyard, but they only make small batches and they may go out of business next year because they just did it for fun.
Right.
So blending, yeah, it's this is one of the moments where I'd say, well, it depends.
Right, right. That's one of the questions that I hear makers talking about a lot is like, how did you figure out this blend if somebody has something that
Yeah,
they found is successful? And I know we've been talking, essential oils are really expensive. So it's not like you can just take a bunch of them and, start mixing them
yeah,
all together. Yeah, so you
yeah,
have to sort of have a plan.
yeah,
But I do know that topic comes up quite a bit. A lot of the essential oils, they smell just like you said, they smell beautiful on their own by
yeah,
themselves. Yep.
yeah.
So, are there any oils that should not be used in personal care?
Personal care products used on your body, I would go without cinnamon.
Okay, that's
Cinnamon is
interesting. Okay.
simply too risky for sensitization, for irritation. It's a great workhorse if we're talking therapeutics,
Right.
but it needs to be dosed very carefully because it's a strong oil. Similarly, clove, you can use clove. You just need to be very careful and follow safety guidelines. You shouldn't be using oils that you don't like.
Right. Right. I have a story about that. I actually I despise patchouli. So and
Oh,
I know just patchouli is a love-hate for people, sort of like
yeah,
cilantro, right? Cilantro,
yeah,
some
yeah,
people
yeah.
think it tastes like soap. But yeah, I could not stand it. But boy, my customers loved patchouli blends. So I
Yeah.
would sit there making and I'd be like, like, oh, I'm sold out of patchouli. I gotta make it again.
Yeah.
Yuck.
You shouldn't try to force yourself. There was a movement that said, well, if you hate it, that's a sign that you really need it.
Oh,
And like, well, if you say that, I think that's a ploy to sell people oils that
yeah,
they don't
yeah.
want. And so please don't do that. But yeah,
I won't be going out and buying any patchouli, trust
yeah.
me. So that brings me to my next question though. Phototoxicity and sensitization are terms that we hear a lot.
Yeah.
So can you explain what they mean in plain language and which oils people should be cautious with?
The most common adverse reaction to putting essential oils on your skin is redness, so is
Right.
dermatitis, basically irritation of your skin. If it's just simple irritation that just happens when you remove the oil, your skin gets back to not being red and itchy or whatever, you're good.
Okay.
If it takes a while to go back, and if you then use the same blend again and it happens again, that means that you've been sensitized. You've basically developed an allergy
Okay.
to the essential oil. This can happen. The more you use it, the more likely it is. The more your body's gonna say, "Okay, I've had enough. Please don't put this on me anymore. My immune system is now being on high alert. I don't want to see this substance on my
Because it
skin."
gets
If that,
worse, right? Your allergic reaction gets worse each time, right?
yeah, well, it may, but once it happens, it takes years to recover from. And it's difficult to say whether you're allergic to the whole oil or to just one constituent, which can be in multiple oils. So you might suddenly be allergic to, a whole family of oils. You can prevent it by following dilution guidelines and using essential oils diluted to, let's say maximum 5%. And it's like the top level.
Right.
Usually 1%
Right.
is good, or different for different oils. But sensitization means that you have now developed allergy to essential oils, and that's not a good thing. Makers and people using essential oils are at a higher risk of developing this because you work with essential oils more than the people using your products.
Right.
You're blending, you may spill, you're breathing them in. So the more exposure to essential oils, the higher risk. Doesn't happen to everybody, doesn't happen to all essential oils. Some essential oils are more prone to creating that reaction. Cinnamon is one of them. Phototoxicity will happen to everybody
Okay.
if you use certain essential oils at a certain level and then you go in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Phototoxicity literally means toxicity to light, to UV light in particular. If you look at margarita dermatitis, you will see people with their hands basically looking like they're burned, and it is sort of a chemical sunburn
Mm-hmm.
because they were making margaritas on a beach and they were peeling lime. And now you all know that when you peel lime, that's the essential oil that you get on your hands.
Right.
And then the sun with the lime essential oil creates a very strong phototoxic reaction, which is essentially your skin gets burned. So there's blisters, it's incredibly painful.
Mm-hmm.
This will happen to everybody. This is not you may develop, you may not develop. If you use undiluted lime essential oil, if you use undiluted bergamot essential oil, if you use a few other citruses undiluted and then go into the sun, you will have this reaction.
Right. I
Uh,
remember back, I don't know
yeah.
if you remember this, but back in I'm a child of the 80s, and there was a product that you put into your hair that was citrus based and
Hmm.
make your hair get, with
Yeah.
the sun. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it would turn your hair this really brassy kind of like
Oh,
blonde. Yes.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
everybody was doing it, oh, I got this in my hair and I'm
Yeah.
out in the sun. Yes.
Yeah, was probably a similar, just kind of exacerbating the UV damage,
Right, right.
basically speeding up the UV
So
damage
you're
that you
burning your
get
hair.
anyway. Yeah, so you
Right.
burn your hair. Yeah, 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 and it gets
I did it.
lightly bleached. But yeah, so phototoxicity will absolutely happen. You
Okay.
need to be aware of that. Good thing is that essential oil manufacturers are very aware of that and will let you know
Okay.
that these essential oils need to be used in a certain way or not used in a certain way. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So do you have a favorite blend that works both scientifically and aromatically? Just your
Ah,
favorite, one of
well,
yours.
depends for what. But it's not necessarily a blend. I do love lavender for all the reasons we mentioned. It's a workhorse in terms of essential oils. It's great for mental well-being. It's great for skin health because it's great anti-inflammatory essential oil. You mentioned burns. I do have a bottle of lavender in my fridge in the kitchen because exactly, it's miraculous for burns. So it's not necessarily a blend. It's just lavender, and I've been in the phase where I do like just going simple
Hmm.
with single essential oils.
Yeah.
Uh, I do like lavender and patchouli together. I'm sorry.
That was one of my best sellers when I made it was lavender and
They
patchouli. Yep.
they work really well together. That's a blend that I've liked a lot, and they are very good for UV damage that we talked about, like
Right.
for after sun care. If you put lavender and patchouli in a skin product that's intended for after sun care,
Mhm.
that's, you're getting the benefits and you're getting the scent if you like it.
Excellent. Excellent. I know
Uh,
what you mean about keeping it simple too, because essential oils to me, it's almost like smelling wine. Like
mhm.
you get different batches, you just smell different things. Even if you're just talking lavender,
Yeah,
like you pick up different notes from it, like just like a
yeah,
wine, just like,
yeah,
wherever the wine was grown and the climate and so that's one of the reasons I love essential oils. I love that
yeah.
complexity. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
you can really you don't have to make your life complicated by trying to blend them. You can, but
right.
yeah, not
Right.
necessarily.
So, what are some of the biggest myths and unsafe practices that you see in using essential oils, particularly too in personal care, like making personal care products?
I think the one of the biggest myths, it's kind of prevalent, not just for essential oils, but for anything natural, is that natural means safe.
Hmm.
And synthetic means unsafe. That's a big myth
Right.
because you can point to black widow spiders in our backyard.
They're
They're
natural.
natural.
Yes.
They're not safe.
No, they're not.
So that's a big myth, and especially if you understand, just how concentrated essential oils are, and they are natural and they are artificially concentrated. You won't necessarily encounter essential oil in the wild as it is. It needs to be concentrated. So just treating them with respect and like a little goes a long way. Even if it's natural, you have to respect the potency of essential oils. I mentioned in the beginning, vitamins are often being claimed as being in essential oils. They're not. Vitamins do not survive distillation. They get destroyed. So there are no vitamins in essential oils. And then there's sometimes fantastical claims about what essential oils will do. Lightening skin is one that we've seen. There's not a lot of evidence about that, but it's not a big myth. But yeah, I think the natural being safe is the biggest myth.
Yeah, that term is not defined in federal. It's just it can mean anything.
Yeah. What is natural? Is biosynthesized natural? If we have limonene that's been spat out by yeast that we genetically modified, is that natural or is that synthetic? And,
Right.
And if it's algae, okay. And where do we draw the line? We can have a whole podcast on just that.
Absolutely. Yes. And there have been a couple attempts in Congress in the United States to define the word natural in the personal care space. There was a couple bills that came out before the pandemic that I was watching and when I was doing my advocacy. And it's still like, even those bills, like they still, it's really hard to get that down to a single principle, the term natural.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, what trends or developments do you see that you're most excited about?
I'm very excited about the developments in terms of sense of smell and taking our sense of smell more seriously in general as an indicator of health, but also as a tool, an incredible tool to affect our brain health, our mental health, and just taking our sense of smell seriously. That's a trend that I've been excited about for a while now because it's an incredible sense, and it's powerfully connected to our brain, to our memories, to our emotions. And one of my favorite fun facts is that Sigmund Freud was smell blind. He couldn't smell anything. And so for whatever sensualities he was talking about, sense of smell was not a part of that conversation for him, which I find absolutely fascinating and frustrating. And we're coming back to realizing that our sense of smell and the sense that we use can be used powerfully for our benefits, but also have a very strong impact on us. So that's a trend that I'm really excited about. And I'm also very excited about the aromatherapy and essentials being more used in partnership with medicine, in partnership with medical centers for cancer patients, just to kind of bring it almost full circle, to alleviate symptoms, to alleviate anxiety. That's also exciting to see that partnership happening and being taken seriously.
Yeah, anybody who's ever, walked into grandma's house and smelled the baking bread or the cookies, that smell just transports you. It does. It gives you a certain calm. Or conversely, the smell of maybe like a hospital, like the cleaners in a hospital, that sends you the other way. I completely agree with you. That is really exciting. And I know too, people, when they lost their sense of smell during COVID, how much of a disruptor that is into your life. You don't even think about it until it's gone. You can't taste, and that's so. I guess I have one more question for you. Can you give me one golden rule for sourcing and using essential oils successfully?
I probably go back to, use as little as you can.
Okay.
As much as you need. Go slow. Go slow. Really lean into getting to know the essential oils. especially if you're a maker. We work with a wonderful cosmetic formulator, and the one thing that she drills into our students is know your ingredients. This applies to essential oils as well. Get to know them, go slow. Don't build a collection of 20 essential oils that you don't know what you're going to do with. Just seriously, take it one essential oil at a time. Learn about the plant, learn about the process, learn everything that you want to about that one, or maybe two or three. Get to know them and get to use them responsibly and appreciate them. And if you appreciate them, then I'd say that success is almost guaranteed.
I think that's great advice. And one thing in stringing these podcasts that I've been recording together is I keep giving the advice that you have to feel it. And that
Mm-hmm.
means you've got to feel the passion about your business and your products.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes with your scents too. You have to feel it.
Yeah.
And the only way to feel it is to know it. So you
Yeah.
have to know it first, and then
Yeah.
and that makes you a better salesperson. It makes your business better because you really have bought into what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
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 So that's great advice. Well,
Yeah.
it's so great to have you today. I think we could
Thank
have at
you.
least 3 more podcasts on
Yeah.
different subjects. There's so many things to talk about with essential oils.
I'll
So
be happy to talk whenever you want me on. Yeah.
excellent. I'd love to have you
Wonderful.
back sometime. So thank you so much again for coming today, Hannah, and we
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to episode 1 of the Master Maker Podcast, brought to you by the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.